Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second round of the Division 2 season, and it's taking place here in Melbourne, Australia at the Albert Park circuit. There's been massive changes made to this circuit since last year, and now this 5.3-kilometer circuit only features 14 corners, 3 DRS zones, with the next game to add the fourth, which was initially taken away from the circuits. But mind you, nevertheless, the additions and takeaways to this track have absolutely made the circuit more enjoyable to watch, at least in real life. Let's see if the Division 2 grid can put on a show from the land down under in the race, which will be heavy rain nonetheless. Unbelievable stuff here. Hotspot with you on the call. This qualifying session is going to be one of the most important you will see all season, especially in the adverse conditions we are going to be having in this Grand Prix. It's going to start out on the heavy wet. It's going to transition to, well, it says dynamic, and then eventually it's going to transition to the dry, but it will be full wets to start out the Grand Prix. So this qualifying session right here is going to mean a lot. Really, this is going to be one hell of a Grand Prix, I can definitely assure you of that. Who's going to be our first driver out on track? My guess might be, it may be the Ferrari of El Majaco. Mind you, this is his home Grand Prix. Okay, okay, I can't even see a name on that, but anyways, El Majaco, his home Grand Prix here, the Australian Grand Prix, one of the very few but talented Australian drivers on the grid. In all of Midwest esports, for that matter. And he will definitely be looking to bounce back since last week's fiasco in Saudi Arabia. It was a P12 finish for him after starting 5th on the grid. A little bit of an incident with the Alfa Romeo of Jordi after that. Stewards ended up penalizing Jordi. In fact, he'll be serving a qualifying ban for retiring on the track this weekend. Would you look at that? It is El Majaco who will be first on track for this qualifying session. I'm actually very excited for this because this seems like a driver who will probably know this circuit, all the ins and outs of it. So we'll have to wait and see what he's able to conjure up here. I would assume we'll be seeing a fair amount of drivers on their wet setups. It's going to be an interesting decision to make, that part's for sure, because obviously you want the track position in the qualifying session. However, the beginning of the race is going to be full wet, so do you sacrifice some initial pace to get yourself a stable car that will help you throughout the first stages of the Grand Prix? It's absolutely going to be a question playing on many of the drivers' minds, and I tell you what, the qualifying session is really going to show us perhaps who was on those wet setups and who isn't. I can tell you one thing, El Majaco is going to be gunning for the pace today. He's got a lot to prove after last week, as we've mentioned. And personally, I'm really excited to see what he's got to offer. Helgeland coming out next. And it was Helgeland who finished P4 last week. A very good result for the Ferrari team. In fact, let's take a look at our constructors' standings. Red Bull leading the charge at 145, Alpine in second at 143, Ferrari third at 130, Williams at 125 and fourth, and then the rest of Mercedes rounds up the top 5 at 86. The rest of the top 10 goes Aston, McLaren, AlphaTauri, Haas, and Alfa Romeo sitting at 0 points for Alfa. Unfortunate for them. But here is El Majaco. Let's see what he's got. Let's go along with him for this your unofficial track guide to the Albert Park circuit. Now this first corner here, you can take a lot more of the curb than I think even El Majaco did there. You can cut that quite a lot. You got to be mindful of the exit curb there on exit of turn 2. Hit it wrong or hit the inside of the curb wrong and you might go spinning into the very tight right-hander of turn 3. That one's going to cause some conundrums in the race, that's for sure. The curbs in this section of the track are absolutely ridiculously high. This is a track that you really need to use the most of the curb, but at the same time, you may induce some floor damage from hitting the curbs too heavily. It's definitely a game that the drivers will need to pay close attention to today. Here it is now, turn 8, down where it used to be the 4th DRS straight. Now, they did remove it at, I think it was before Free Practice 3 of last F1 season's Australian Grand Prix. It's actually been re-added right now this year. And I say right now because at the moment of recording this, they are on track for FP1 in real life in Australia. Here's Majaco now going through turn 11 down towards turn 12. Both of these corners have been altered, especially turn 11. Here now is turn 13 and 14. Pit entry has been widened as well. A lot of changes to the circuit to kind of breed more overtaking spots and to, I would say, also make a more consistent race. as far as, you know, it's going to be one of those tracks that, you know, we kind of know what to expect of it now. Obviously, that wasn't going to be the case last season, with it being the brand new circuit, but El Majaka goes 1:19.664. That's actually his teammate of Helgeland there. That puts less than 6/100ths of a second back to his teammate of El Majaka. Solid lap for him, and I believe next up is going to be the Haas of Travis Scott. Coming out of the final corner now. Ooh, I'm not really sure what's happened with him there. This doesn't look like a lap that he's going to be able to keep. Not rightly sure why. Next up behind him is the Alpine of... who is that? It is an Alpine. Is it Frenchie? No, Frenchie's gone in. Who's that coming out on track? Am I missing something? Is my game stupid? No, it was Bobbert Yates who's actually gone third. I was looking the wrong way. Bobbert Yates has gone third. A very close gap already here within the Division 2 grid. Less than 7/100ths of a second separate the top three at the moment. Next round the corner of turn 14 is going to be Slayerized. He'll come to the line now. What does he have? Goes P4 at the moment, 1:19.727. Now that still falls within a tenth of our leader of Helgeland at the moment. Next up looks to be the McLaren. It's going to be Say. Definitely no lack of qualifying pace for Say. He goes provisional pole 1:17.821. Puts nearly 2 seconds back to the pair of Ferraris. That, I have to say, it will be a very difficult time beating that lap for Say. And he was the driver that's held on to provisional pole for pretty much all but the last minute of the Saudi Arabian qualifying session last week. And it looks like he's on pace to do it yet again. Unbelievable lap. From the driver who, you wouldn't believe it with that quality of lap, but got relegated from Division 1 last year, and now finds himself in Division 2, trying to bounce back and get up to the Premier Division once again. I tell you what, if he keeps putting in laps like that, he absolutely will be able to. Next up now, I believe, is going to be the Haas of Travis Scott. Nope, he's going into the pits, so it will be Josh Sr., the lone Red Bull on the grid today, it seems. Yet to put in a timed attempt, making his way out of turn 14. DRS activated for the Red Bull. To the line he goes. And he goes P3, 1:19.131 for the Red Bull. Meanwhile, Guitar Man Khan has just put in a solid effort. Has gone less than a second off the pace of Say. Very solid lap from Guitar Man, and I think that might solidify him a top 5 starting spot at least. Perhaps even the front row, unless we see... Now... I don't really know who this is. He's got no name. We're gonna assume... Can I just look at my sheet and see who's checked in and who's not? Because, quite frankly, I've got no idea who this is in the Mercedes. I'm gonna assume it's Callie Robb, last week's Jeddah race winner here in Division 2. Definitely a driver to look out for. I mean, that guy had some serious pace on him, and even better for him, as we have DJ Knickknack has retired coming out of the final corner. Do we have anybody on track to look at it? Well, here comes Guitar Man. Now, it's coming out of 14 here. As he goes into the pits, has he perhaps just hit the curb and then has gone wide? It certainly seems. Oh, God, and he's right. Oh! Well... red flag. Hopefully Josh Sr. or whoever the Red Bull is coming around the corner doesn't get it done in here. Next up is the Mercedes of, I believe it's going to be Callie Robb. My goodness me, look at that. This is just incredible here. Oh, and that car, the Alpine, nearly hit him, and so did the Williams behind him. What an absolutely terrible spot to go off, and the game didn't even clear them off the track. That is a blind corner coming off of that apex, and they're exactly where you want to be coming off of turn 14. That has hindered the progress of several drivers, most importantly those of DJ Knickknack, a fireballer, who now do not have a timed attempt to their name. But maybe that's going to be a good thing for them. Do they wait it down to the back, let the carnage happen in front of them on the way into turn 1? Very much a possibility. This track, naturally, it's a street circuit, one of them hybrid circuits. Not really any camber into any of these corners, so naturally when you hit those brakes heading into the first corner, the car is going to want to slide through the apex of the corner into the gravel, and it's going to do that for any of the heavy braking zones here, including turn 3, turn 11, turn 12. I would assume 13 might happen as well, assuming you could build up enough speed. Another corner we're going to look out for is that flick between turns 9 and 10, which I believe one of the Williams is going through now. Yet Hightower, as you can see, he's just gone through that very tricky corner there. We'll get a better look at it. Majacco, and speaking of tricky, I believe that Alpine behind him has actually just missed it coming off said curve. As El Majacco runs through now, this may be a timed lap from Jacko. It's hard to tell. He doesn't look like. He looks like he's got fresh tires on. Not low on fuel. This may be an attempt from Jacko. We'll have to wait and see. As now he makes his way through the rest of Sector 3 through turns 13 and 14. Now that is where the McLaren had gone off. The Alfa had gone off. And Majacco goes P6, best his previous best time by almost 0.3 of a second. Now, that was a very terrible spot to be DNF'd in once more, and hopefully I can add a replay of that when I think of it. By God, that was literally terrible to be happening in there. So we had 19 checked in to this event. We've only got 16 present on the grid. As we've got, I believe that's an Aston Martin back there. I'm going to go ahead and assume that it is the Mercedes. Well, no, we're missing 8 Eltonian, so that's the reason why we've only got 1 Red Bull. I'm not sure why we're missing Mercedes, and by missing, we've only got 1, and the one that we do have, we don't know who it is. I'm going to assume it's Cali Robb, but you never know, I'm afraid. El Majacco, so he previously put his Ferrari in 6th. Josh Senior now coming out of, what is this? This is turn 5. Josh Senior currently finds himself P4. Here's Guitar Man, who currently finds himself, I believe that said, 2.5 of a second faster than his previous best through Sector 2. We're going to go along with Guitar Man as he finds his way down to turn 11. This corner has been widened on exit. You can see the curb. That wasn't there before. That'll give you at least a little bit of room to try to make a late dive there if you want. Might be a good spot for a last lap pass. We'll have to wait and see. Guitar Man! Wow, and somehow he was able to hold on to that one as he rounds turn 14 now and across the line. This isn't going to be a lap to hold on to for Guitar Man unless, well, it actually still managed to go 1/10.5 quicker despite that slip coming out of turn 13. Impressive car control, and he was able to hold on to the lap and still put himself in a good position for the top 3 here. And now, I believe, 5 cars now on outlap. In fact, I believe 3 is just fresh out of pits. Say, a current provisional pole sitter is one of those drivers. Electric Blade, currently sitting in 2nd. He's going to be a driver to look out for sure today. As you can see now, the weather transitioning to the heavy clouds. We're not getting any rain in this qualifying session, but you can go ahead and assume, in fact, definitely assume, in fact, you can know that we're going to be starting the Grand Prix with heavy rain. Which that one's going to be quite fun. Let's put it that way. Let's go along with Say and the McLaren, our current provisional pole sitter, as he exits turn 14. Headed down the pit straight now. Last week for Say, it was I want to say a rather unfortunate race for him. Started 2nd, ended up finishing P6, and he's already invalidated. Not ideal for the McLaren. That is not what he needed to do whatsoever. And now Electric Blade, I think, is going to have a better opportunity here as Say, well, at least it says on my map that the lap's invalidated. Let's see, his recharge light is on, so it must say it for him as well. He is just pushing to get back to the line. We've got 5 minutes left in the session. On with Electric Blade now. Coming off P8 finish. Last time out at Saudi Arabia after starting 4th. In fact, everybody in the top 4, minus that of Cali Robb, who started on pole. So Cali Robb won the race from starting on pole. Bobbert Yates, who finished 2nd, started P11. Josh Senior started P17, finished 3rd. And then Helgeland started P10 and finished 4th. Last time out at Jeddah. So the drivers who we thought were going to have an easier time off the front of the grid, well, it didn't end up that way. And now we're along with Electric Blade, who I would assume will bounce back this week. Very quick driver in his own right. So is pretty much everybody. I mean, if you're here in Division 2, it's because you belong to be here. That part is absolutely true. And we'll have to wait and see if Electric Blade can definitely live up to at least my expectations for him. And I'm not a very good driver, I never have been, but I know a good driver when I see it, and Electric Blade, I think, fits that criteria. And so he'll be looking to put on an impressive display here in Division 2, and now his recharge lights are on. He's got the Red Bull of Josh Sr. behind him. He looks to be inkling closer to the low fuel mode as we've got an Aston Martin. It's MMR Slayerized, who I believe may have spun into the gravel outside of turn 11. But at the moment, Electric Blade, I believe he's going to be starting another time lap 1 here very shortly. Josh Sr. coming to the line. No, he's actually coming into the pits. Slightly interesting that, I think he just hit the pit wall on the way in. That's certainly looked like he did. 3 minutes and 15 seconds now left in the session. Here comes Electric Blade on his opening lap. He cut that corner, that first corner, cut the curb a lot more than we saw the Ferrari of El Majaco. I was saying that you could cut that corner a lot more than initially meets the eye, but you got to get the line into the corner. Absolutely correct. Electric Blade has done that there. I believe that may have saved him a couple of tenths, assuming he's done it correctly this time, as opposed to last time. Well, there you go. A tenth and 2/100ths is what he's improved on so far as he makes his way through turn 8 down this winding road in towards the flick of turns 9 and 10, as I believe El Majaco has just had a small spin coming off of turn 10 as he finds himself in the grass as the Williams of not Bobber Yates, as Hightower goes by. Back along with Electric Blade. He's already made it through 9 and 10, so he must have done it well. Hasn't invalidated in towards turn 11 now. Takes a lot of the curb on the inside, takes a lot of the curb on the outside as well. That may have slowed him down a little bit with how much of the curb he did take on the outside of the corner. We'll have to wait and see. Into the very tight corner of turn 13, and he is coming into the pits. Depressing, because I thought that was going for a much better lap than it initially looked. Well, here's Guitar Man Khan, who currently sits, I believe that's at just under 0.2 of a second faster in his previous attempt through Sector 1 so far. In fact, that's exactly what it is, 0.229 faster through Sector 1 so far. Guitar Man Khan, I definitely hope at least this time we're going to see a full-timed lap. Minute and a half left in the session here. Guitar Man Khan making his way past turn 8 down towards the flick of turns 9 and 10. Let's see if he can handle it, or does he wind up in the gravel on the outside? Well, he's gone purple Sector 2, 0.3 of a second faster, keeps hold of track limits nicely. DRS open as he heads down towards turn 11. Let's see, nails the apex, I think, doesn't take that. Oh, maybe a slip there. I don't know if that was the internet connection or he slipped, but it looked quite tidy initially, at least going through the corner. I'm not sure, once again, if that was wheel spin genuine or the game just threw me through for a loop there. DRS open once again for the Aston Martin. To the line goes Guitar Man gone, and he goes provisional pole. 1:17.748 puts 4/100ths of a second back to Say, who currently he's going to be starting his final timed lap now as he exits turn 14. Let's see if he can improve. He doesn't have to improve by much, but this is a carbon copy of what happened last time out in Saudi Arabia. He had the entirety, he had provisional pole for the entirety of the session, and then lost it on the next driver's final attempt. And that was absolutely true for Guitar Man Khan. Let's see if Say can improve here and reclaim provisional pole with 20 seconds left in the session. Next up is going to be the Red Bull of Josh Sr. I believe that was the Ferrari, perhaps, of Helgeland getting out of the way there. To the line's going to come Josh Sr. I believe it. Oh, and that was a spin by somebody. It is Josh Sr., who looked to be on a pretty solid lap. And unfortunately for him, he is stuck in the circuit here. Now, this is what's going to happen. Will he become disqualified for parking it on the track like he did last week in Saudi Arabia? No, thankfully it doesn't. He's able to get the car turned around, but by goodness, that one was sketchy for sure there. Electric Blade, all he can manage is third. Josh Sr. can only manage fourth. I think whoever the Ferrari was that did just cross the line was able to get the lap off before the checkered flag flew. Well, here's Say making his way into turn 11 now. Takes a lot of the curb on exit. That may have hurt him. Heavy on the rev limiter, uses all of the track, as you can see. He's absolutely going for this one. Makes his way now through turn 14. Doesn't touch the curve of the inside. Maybe a little slow. He had a second to collect the throttle. To the line goes Say, and he does take pole. 1:17.631 for the McLaren driver. But now it's all up to El Majacco, who is in low fuel mode. Unless does Helgeland have a good lap going here. The recharge light isn't on, so Say's going to have to hold his breath just a minute longer. As out of the final two corners comes Helgeland. Does he have anything? Exiting turn 14, upshifts quite early, uses the curve on exit. To the line goes Helgeland. It's not going to be pole for him. He will go P8. It is Say making the comeback that he, I think, desperately needed after last time out in Saudi Arabia. Of course, we still have the race to go, but it is pole position for the McLaren, who, for the majority of the session, looked in convincing fashion. Guitar Man Khan trying to throw a wrench into his plans. It was a great lap on his part, but it was Say who did take pole. And so here is your starting grid for the Australian Grand Prix. It is Say on pole by 1/10 1/2 over the Aston Martin of Guitar Man. It's Electric Blade third, Josh Senior fourth, Hightower in fifth, Hometown Hero of El Majacco in sixth, Bobbert Yates seventh, Helgeland eighth, ninth is Slayer Eyes, 10th is Grim Reaper, 11th we'd assume is Cali Robb, 12th is Frenchie, 13th Travis Scott, 14th is DJ Knickknack, and unfortunately for DJ Knickknack, Fireballer, and Jorday, they did not get an opportunity to put in a timed lap attempt. It was incidents that collected both the Alpha and the McLaren, and the second Alpha of Jorday served a qualifying ban. And now, if you thought that was crazy enough, the rain will be coming down here shortly in Melbourne. So very much unlike the FP1 session we're watching in real life simultaneously, it is pouring here in Melbourne in Division 2, and for the rest of the Midwest F1 League as well, which, by the way, I'd like to remind you is brought to you by Raze Energy and Epos Audio. Currently leading the FP1 session as of the 35th minute to go, it's Verstappen and Perez. Who else but the two Red Bull drivers leading off the FP1 session so far. It is full wets on display here, and it will be, at least for the beginning of the Grand Prix. The game says, as you can see, 14 to 20 laps on the wets. I don't believe we're going to need to go that far on them, because it is going to transition to dynamic, which that's a whole lot of question marks there. It will become dry by the end of the Grand Prix, that part's for sure. But that doesn't really tell us anything now, does it? Full wets for everybody. Not really going to be much of a, surprise there. Let's go ahead and look at the position change graphic. It is Say, who is on pole in the McLaren, a driver that desperately needs to bounce back from last week. Because I tell you what, he's almost dumped it coming out of turn 5 there, hasn't he? You know, it's very difficult in these higher divisions because you need to have a very short memory. Say didn't have the week he wanted last time out, despite starting second, finished in the midfield. And hopefully that doesn't prey too much on his mind this week, because I tell you what, he really does have the pace to be in Division 1. A lot of it is the consistency, and a lot of it is how many, how much it preys on the mind, these mistakes that oftentimes the drivers makes. It's Guitar Man Khan lining up in second. He was off pole by about 1/10 1/2 at the end. Electric Blade is a little bit of a sleeper here coming off the line. He starts third, and next to him is Josh Senior in fourth. Josh Senior last week as well, finishing in third on the podium. Very solid result for the Red Bull. And once more, how could we go without mentioning the driver at his home Grand Prix? It's El Majacco. He's going to need himself a good result today. Last week was not the day that he needed, certainly. And I think he is really looking forward to this Grand Prix to right a few wrongs that had happened at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And as the grid forms up here, we're about to get racing. Once again, we'd like to point... Oh, that's an Aston Martin that's gone off. Slayer Eyes just spun, coming out of turn 13. And El Majacco is disqualified for, I believe, not lining up in his grid correctly. That is going to be very detrimental to him off the start. He's got Bobbert Yates, I believe, what is that, behind him to the left. Coming off the start, Bobbert Yates. Second place last week, I believe it was, if I'm saying that correctly. It could be wrong. Here we go. The lights are coming on here in Melbourne. We have 3, 4, and then eventually 5. And they are off in Division 2. Who got the better start? Say got away very well. In fact, he's gapped Guitar Man off the line. It's going to be Electric Blade sneaking up the outside as they head down in towards turn 1. It looks like for now everybody's made it away cleanly. Say goes into the grass. It looks like definitely some shuffling about there. Elma Jacko and Helgelin, I believe, was swapping positions. Say's got away well. Guitar Man and Electric Blade, they're side by side as they go in towards turn 3. Guitar Man goes deep. Does Electric Blade try to sling back to the inside? He tried it. Didn't quite work. We've got Fireballer as well as Frenchie, who's gone off towards the back. Electric Blade's gone wide. Bobbert Yates just got around Guitar Man. Very unconventional spot to make the overtake through turn 4. And now it looks like, are we perhaps calm now? I would doubt it, as it's Elma Jacko getting down the inside of Josh Senior, heading in towards turn 6 and 7, and now he's free to chase the Aston Martin ahead of him of Guitar Man. All the while, it looks like Hightower has just made a mistake there. Doesn't look like he's missing any front wing, but he certainly spun out of control and is now dropping down the order rapidly. Frenchie's down 4, Hightower's down 8. It looks like, oh, Bobbert Yates has gone around. He's gone into the gravel through turns 10 and 11, and that was going to be 9 and 10 rather. That was going to be the spot to look out for in these adverse conditions, and Bobbert Yates has really made a mess of that one. He drops down all the way to P12. That promotes Majacko to 4th. He's got Josh Senior behind him. I think now we can assume that the grid might start to get calm here and mellow out, at least for the time being. Still a lot of racing left to go, and the conditions still going to change a lot, but it is Say in the McLaren starting on pole and leads the first lap of the Grand Prix. Very nicely done. It's Helgelin now, getting around Josh Senior, but it's actually side by side. Heading in towards turn 1, Helgelin, I would say, as the preferred line for turn 2. They're going to make contact on the wheels once, twice, maybe even a third. Behind them, a yellow flag. It's actually in front of him. It's Guitar Man, who has spun around and taken his front wing. Has been claimed by the retaining wall on the inside coming off of turn 2, and that is not what he needed, as he was off to a good start and now falls back all the way down to the tail end of the grid. It is Say who leads the Grand Prix, followed by Electric Blade, followed now by Elma Jacko. It looks like Callie Robb is up a couple of spots here. He's up 3. He's going to look for... Oh, and that is a big slide! Oh, and he gets plowed into by the Haas behind. And this one might end up being a safety car here. And somehow it's not, because Callie Robb, who we think it is, absolutely nailed the outside wall going through turn 8. Got plowed into from behind by Travis Scott, who in his own right, I would assume, did not have really the opportunity to see until he was right there. Huge calamity going through turn 8. And a huge contender, assuming it is Callie Robb, a huge contender, last week's race winner, has now suddenly fallen out of contention and is going to be missing that front wing. He'll need to make the change, and that one might just be the end to his competitive day. Still a lot of race left, but this isn't really a track where you can take that much time to get repairs. As it looks like Hightower has gone around the outside of Travis Scott, heading in towards 13. And Travis Scott going to be on his way in. Mind you, he's missing the end plate on, I believe, the left-hand side from hitting the back of the Mercedes. And now it's Electric Blade within 7/10 of Say as they make their way through the rest of Sector 1 through 4 now, eventually in towards 5. Reminds you, especially in these very conditions, as you see Say there, exactly pointing out the point that I was just about to make. You really got to be careful taking the curbs on this track, because not only are they high in the dry weather, in the wet they're going to be 10 times as slippery, and Say has just almost found that out the hard way. I think he's escaped scot-free there, and by scot-free, that means he's at least going to have to defend from Electric Blade, who right now is right up against the gearbox of Say as they go through 9 and 10. Do either of them make a hash of this corner? The answer is no. Battery enabled for Electric Blade. He might have a move into turn 11. Oh, and he's held onto the car brilliantly. Has to be said, that one could have been terrible for Electric Blade. That one could have ended his day if he didn't catch onto it, but he was able to correct the car. And despite him falling now almost outside of 2 seconds back to the McLaren, he at least has the car in one piece. Josh Senior trying to find a move to Helgelin here. 0.5 of a second. Back to the Ferrari ahead. We'll have to wait and see if anything comes about Josh Sr. right in the slipstream, had to back out of the throttle there, as you can see, big wiggle for him, and now suddenly it seems Electric Blade is back within a second of say. That we did not expect after what had just happened. Jordy's gotten around PWR Grim Reaper, but as they go into turn 1, contact made, Jordy into the grass, and it looks like, well, if I was Grim Reaper, I'd be giving that spot back, and that's what he's done. Good sportsmanship there from Grim Reaper, who really did the right thing after more or less forcing the Alfa Romeo off track. Jordy, by the way, up 10 positions since his initial starting spot of P16, who, by the way, had to take a qualifying ban after retiring on track last week after the collision with Elma Jacko, which really impacted Jacko's race as well. Only a couple drivers here within a second of each other, one of them being Josh Sr. on Helgeland, who, it has to be said, looking like he is kind of struggling with the handling of the car. But now he's got the speed, and he's going to be looking for it on Helgeland here. Can he find the inside? I would doubt he's going to try it into 9 and 10. But it has to be said, the track kind of looks like it's starting to become at least a little bit more dry. You can see the rain not nearly as heavy as it was when we started this Grand Prix. And so, we might be looking at the switch to the intermediates here shortly. That would be a huge, huge turn of events there, if indeed that is the case. Can we look and see, has any of the drivers who have had to pit made that change? The answer is no. Travis Scott, Guitar Man, and Callie Robb all or the Mystery Mercedes, all on fresh, wet tires. But as you can see, the rain not necessarily coming down in the droves like it was before. The track is still going to take some time to dry as we have a yellow flag. It is the Mystery Mercedes, who I believe is taking a quick spin coming out of turn 8. 7/10 of a second, 6/10 of a second now separate Josh Sr. From Helgeland. Meanwhile, Jordy wants in on this fight as well as Grim Reaper starting to enter this fray. Jordy has gone wide, in fact, quite wide through turn 3 there. Grim Reaper's going to try the outside, and I think Jordy is just pretty much going to let him have the spot because he knows. Oh, but hang on a second. Jordy's trying to retake it as they go through 5, side by side through 5. That, I gotta say, is a pretty sketchy place to go side by side. Grim Reaper's gonna outbrake Jordy into the corner, and now Jordy might be facing a challenge here from Bobbert Yates. In fact, he is. Bobbert Yates going down into the grass, somehow is able to hold on to the car, and then, eventually, and I say eventually, he still hasn't really done it yet, but that is take the position from Jordy. But if they go side by side in 9 and 10, this is only going to end poorly, and I think Bobbert Yates realizes that. He tries to back out, and the Alfa Romeo and the Alpine collect. And I believe we've also got the Aston Martin of Slayerized involved as well. And DJ Knick-Knack, after all of it, somehow, and I mean somehow, got through that cleanly. He had 3 cars go off in front of him, and he thread the needle through the middle. And unfortunately for Jordy, the great day that he was having is now come to perhaps a screeching halt. What a turn of events that was there, as it's now Bobbert Yates and Slayerized, 2 of which who had just had that quick spin. Still battling it out. We got a yellow flag. I believe it is the Mercedes, the Mystery Mercedes, getting out of the way for the top 2 as they make their way towards turn 3, as Electric Blade had a lockup there going in towards 3. And that is hurt his time there significantly. Now drops back to almost outside of 2 seconds, but remains within 1.7 at the moment. Josh Sr. still trying to close down on Helgeland here. Has not really had the luck in doing that quite yet. Very patient is being Josh Sr. He's not letting the conditions take advantage of him, which now, speaking of the conditions, this definitely looks like weather to get on for the intermediate tires. But, again, it will eventually transition to the dry weather. Do they ride it out on the wet tires until the dry weather happens? That, although, albeit it's a risky plan, it may be the one the teams want to follow. Because why make an extra stop to the intermediates if you have to? If you don't have to... Oh, Josh Sr.'s botched that braking zone and goes into the gravel. Almost, as Grim Reaper behind him nearly got collected. And speaking of pit stops, it looks like Electric Blade is going to be the first taker alongside Elma Jacko. Oh, Jacko's coming in a bit hot. Does he get it back down? Yes, he does. Intermediates going on for Electric Blade. We can assume the same for Jacko. Yes, they are. In fact, the rest of the top 6 do come in. Helgeland stayed out and Say stayed out. But let's see the pace that is performed now by those who have chosen to go on the intermediates. This is going to be the big question here. Have they gone too early? Have they gone too late? As in those in the wets, have they stayed out too long? That's going to be the question here. I will say at the moment, from our nearest driver on intermediates to the nearest driver on wets, as it looks like the mystery Mercedes in the way again, it does look like Electric Blade making up some serious ground to Helgeland ahead. It was at 5 seconds before coming to the turn 3. It's now almost within 4. Remember, Say's got a 15-second lead at the moment, Helgeland behind, but Electric Blade is really making up the ground behind, as El Majaco, I believe, has just gone down the inside of DJ Knickknack. Unfortunate I couldn't see it, but that looked a brilliant move. Man, that I would have wanted to see that. I bet you that one was class. Now, does Say choose to come in? The answer is yes, and he's got quite a nice buffer at the moment, 16 seconds, as he chooses to make his way into the pits. Oh, that's a bit fast. Somehow he got the car slowed, because that one looked as if he was going to be speeding into the pit lane there. Thankfully, he wasn't. But on the wet track, naturally, that one's going to be a difficult. Electric Blade really sliding out of turn 14 there. That may help Say, who's on his way out of the pit lane now. So Say was able, and I mean barely, and I mean just able to keep the lead of the Grand Prix. As now it looks like the Mercedes, the Ghost Mercedes, has retired. That is the yellow flag that you see occupying the tail end of Sector 3 there. Everybody else coming in. It's only... Oh, what is this? Oh, that's interesting. Am I looking at this correctly? Am I slightly dumb, or is this actually happening? The car that retired in the pits, it was the Mercedes, the Ghost Mercedes. Hightower was in behind, and the game had yet to remove the Mercedes from the circuit, and that had blocked Hightower in the pits, and he was unable to make his stop, and now finds himself way down P14. Only 2 drivers left out on track on the wet tires still. That includes Fireballer up in P4 and Travis Scott in P11, as it looks like now Hightower might be under pressure here from Guitar Man. Guitar Man's going to try down the inside in turn 3, side by side still. In through 4. This one may get messy, and Hightower is going to cede the spot there to Guitar Man. Very nicely done, I think, at the end of the day, and that was the smart way to go for both drivers there. Josh Sr. is going to have to get around the McLaren of Fireballer here. We're going to assume Fireballer is going to be coming in this lap, but Josh Sr. under heavy pressure from Grim Reaper, and all the while he's losing time back to El Majaco as well, after being held up behind the McLaren, who was still in the full wets. Down the pit straight they go. It's Grim Reaper giving chase to Josh Sr. here, although it doesn't look as if he's closing in that fast. Speaking of not closing in, it does look as if Say in the McLaren isn't necessarily pulling away or losing time to the AlphaTauri behind. Electric Blade has stayed pretty consistent at about 1.8 seconds behind the McLaren. It looks like, just of my initial looking here, where there is a speedy part of the track, Say has the advantage. But Electric Blade in the corners looks to be making up the most time. In fact, that's exactly what happened as they went through turns 9 and 10. It's down to 1.6. Grim Reaper trying to move in on Josh Sr. That one not really coming with any luck at the moment. Travis Scott has stayed out another lap. And I think this is what we were talking about with Travis Scott. Well, not necessarily with Travis Scott, but with till you stay out on the wets and wait for the track to dry up and only make the one stop. It was an interesting strategy call here from Travis Scott. In hindsight, I don't really think it was going to work. Something to suggest at the very least. As Say puts in the fastest lap, 1:33.36. As he now puts nearly 2 seconds back to Electric Blade, and I think Travis Scott might have to stop here soon. You can see he's struggling for grip. He's gone wide past turn 10, and now he's going to be under pressure from Fireballer as they head in towards turn 13. slow up to speed is Travis Scott. As you can see, Fireballer is going to look for the spot here. He's going to have to be aggressive. He doesn't want to lose any more time, but I'm afraid Travis Scott just refuses to get out of the way, and Travis Scott, no, he's going to stay out again. Bold strategy from the Haas. Down the pit straight they go. I'm going to assume Fireballer is going to be able to catch up to Travis Scott here. The answer, no. So I think, it's going to be one of those situations through the corners. Perhaps does Fireballer have the advantage with more grip? Travis Scott's, his car certainly looked more comfortable down the straight, and, well, there we go. That pretty much answers that question as Travis Scott goes wide, going through turn 3 into the gravel. He drops back down to P12, and now it's going to be Jorday putting the pressure here on Fireballer. Jorday on 2-lap older tires than that of the McLaren ahead of him. We'll have to see if that plays any difference here. Currently the closest battle on track as they make their way through turn 8 down towards the next DRS zone. 0.5 of a second the gap. No DRS in play yet. Pretty much the telltale sign of the track being dry enough to switch to the slick tires is when the game says DRS enabled. It's not going to be for some time yet, I don't think. The track does have to take time to dry. But as you can see, the rain very much not really falling that heavy anymore. Interesting here. The track still, it's definitely still glistening with the rain. You can see that on your screen pretty clearly. But something that you're not seeing on your screen anymore is the rain. It looks like it has stopped falling. The rain has stopped here in Melbourne. And now, this is where I think can perhaps... Well, it's not necessarily helped Travis Scott, has he? Because he's made the mistake and he's lost positions anyways. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough call to make. I think it probably could have helped him if he didn't have the initial slide through turn 3. Maybe he could have gained a couple positions, but it's Frenchie now, who I believe just had a little slide coming out of turn 2. So the biggest mover in the positive direction is DJ Knickknack, up 6 positions. I'm not going to say there's been very little movement here, as it looks like Frenchie's going to be overtaken here by Guitar Man. Say setting the fastest lap, so fastest laps keep happening. That will mean that dry tires will be happening shortly. You can start to see the dry groove starting to take place on the circuit. Even for pace, I'd say, between Electric Blade and Say so far. With the aid of DRS, this will turn into a completely different race. DRS, by the way, I think we might be seeing in 1 or 2 laps' time, considering that now the rain has stopped falling, and you can see the dry groove starting to form. DJ Knickknack's gone fastest, 1:29.851 for his Alfa Romeo, currently occupies P8. Jorday chasing down Fireballer here, making their way through at turns 1 and 2. It looks like the Alfa Romeo might have a look at the McLaren here shortly. We got a yellow flag on the pit straight, and it's Hightower? No, who was that? No, it is Hightower, who has spun it around coming out of 14. Thankfully, it doesn't look like there's any debris littering the circuit, so we will stay green. I don't believe the game has called for DRS to be open just yet, as Say will be the first driver coming in for the slick compound tires. I say slick compound tires, you know what I mean. Slick tires coming on from Say, on with the mediums, Electric Blade behind. I would assume going for the mediums as well. No, and he chooses the hards. According to my notes here, the mediums will last between 13 to 17, the hards between 18 and 23. As Majacco comes in for the mediums as well. This is an interesting strategy call here by Electric Blade. Does he choose to have the pace at the end of the Grand Prix? As Electric Blade, I believe, has just missed the initial corner, and Josh Senior on the intermediates will go past. DRS now enabled, as the lot, nearly the entire grid, will be coming in now. Bobbert, Yates on down to Jorday, P11, and I would assume Guitar Man, Travis Scott, and the rest will be in shortly. Josh Sr., the only driver still on the intermediate tires. However, he has just set purple Sector 1 on the intermediates. That, interesting there. You will see in real life that the intermediate tires do eventually, the initial grooves on the tire, they wear away like any normal road car would, and they form a special compound of soft, the softest tire really on the Pirelli range once those grooves wear away. Now, I don't know if that mechanic and real-life aspect plays into the game as it does in real life. Not entirely sure. For Josh Sr., however, it looks like he's got some decent pace going. He will need to stop soon. Not necessarily pulling away from Electric Blade, although he is about to eclipse 5 seconds, and he does. Oh, that's actually back to say. I'm looking at that incorrectly, as Electric Blade will now go down the pit straight. He does have DRS. That was back to Josh Sr., so we'll be able to help himself to a little DRS here in the pursuit of Say. Josh Sr., where is he going to come out? Medium tires have gone on for the Red Bull. I think he'll be able to stay out ahead of the AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri's got some pace. It might be side by side in the first corner. No, and Josh Sr.'s actually done that one quite nicely. Very nice strategy call there for Josh Sr., who stays P4. But now will have the pressure behind of Grim Reaper, who's on the warm tires. To the outside, round turn 3. Contact made. Grim Reaper goes wide. Doesn't look like any wing damage has happened between either driver. That's good news, but the contact was surely made. Josh Sr. will take time for him in his tires to get up to temperature. He has, after it's all said and done, lost a spot. Net positions has lost 1. Currently 3 drivers sit on 6 position gains. That being of Grim Reaper, DJ Knickknack, and Jorday. So both the Alfa Romeos in good spots here. Mind you, DJ Knickknack's picked up 3 seconds for multiple warnings, so he will have the penalty, although he does have 15 seconds behind to the Aston Martin of Slayer Eyes. To say goes fastest, 1:22.489. And the gap from first to second not necessarily getting any closer. It's been quite stagnant at 6 seconds. In fact, the gap from first to second and third is almost identical on time, 6 seconds apart each. Closest battle on track is DJ Knickknack to the back of Helgeland. Knickknack always a little tentative getting on the throttle there. He does have DRS back to Helgeland. Neither driver choosing to use their energy store here as they head towards the first corner. I think Helgeland's gotten away much better. DRS in play here for DJ Knickknack, and I gotta say, it's not really helping him that much, but here is Jorday. Does he have a move on the Aston Martin of Slayer Eyes? He had a peek down to the inside, and he did not have enough time to make it happen. Now, Jorday has chosen the soft tires. That is as well a bold decision, as the soft tires are only gonna last between 7 to 9 laps, and we have definitely more than that left in the race. Mind you, I don't know if these notes are accurate or not. I can't really remember the last time we raced here. It was quite a while ago. We'll say that much. It may have been from the last game. I'm not going to sell myself short. I did that in a different league 2 seasons ago, where I had the tire notes to Monaco, but it was from the game before, and they were completely different. Anyways, here's Jorday down to the inside of Slayer Eyes before they get towards turns 9 and 10. This is where the DRS zone will be in real life. The one that they had initially last season, took away before the start of Free Practice 3, and then have added once more. And that one could be a very fun one to have in real life, as well as in the game, as we have a yellow flag coming out of turn 2. I believe it is Frenchie who's getting up to speed now, perhaps had a little bit of a slip with the what we'd assume is cold, hard tires. 16 laps completed here in Australia. Just beyond the halfway mark. Still a lot of Grand Prix left to go. Still plenty of time for things to potentially go wrong. For that of, say, Electric Blade and Jacko. And for the rest of the grid, for that matter. But at the moment, it's DJ Knickknack, one Italian chasing down another of Helgeland ahead of him. 6.5 tenths currently the gap. Mind you, DJ Knickknack has the 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. I don't think that's going to stop him at the moment, considering he's got a nearly 16 and a half second gap back to his teammate Ajorde in ninth. So he's not, at the moment, going to need to worry about that penalty. However, you know, one driver spinning out through turns 9 and 10 maybe, and crashing and DNFing will be, it very much could be, it's very possible to be the deciding factor in this Grand Prix. We've yet to have a safety car. We've yet to have a virtual safety car. So at the moment, everything's doing okay. Commentary cursed to strike in 3, 2, 1. And somehow it didn't happen. Down the straight, and it looks like, well, DJ Knickknack does have DRS to Helgeland. I don't think he'll have it going through the DRS coming out of turn 2. He is behind a second. No, the game says he will. 9/10 of a second now, and, well, he is closing, but it's at a very snail's pace, it has to be said. Only got to 0.8 of a second, gained 0.2 of a second down that pit straight. Not the pit straight, coming out of turn 2. Rest of the field has to be said quite spread out here. Looks like DJ Knickknack slightly losing time to his teammate behind, but I don't think it's going to be much to worry about at the moment. It's still 15 and a half seconds. Say currently has almost 9.5 seconds to lead it back to Electric Blade. Electric Blade has an 8-second lead back to El Majacco in third, and El Majacco back to fourth has 10 seconds of lead. Oh, that's a big wiggle for DJ Knickknack, and somehow he held on to it. Now, had he lost the car, that would have been the game changer that I think this race needs. And by goodness me, that one was almost catastrophic. And that would have definitely re-racked the grid there. Now outside of a second, and I think he can kiss his DRS goodbye here. Yep, he's not going to have it. I don't think he's got enough battery to use here, although him and Helgeland are almost identical in battery. Helgeland at 31, DJ Knickknack at 28, 29, somewhere around there. Oh, he's going to go deep through the first corner. He's probably received a warning for exceeding track limits there. And now it looks like, does Josh Sr. perhaps eventually have it? Has a 3-second penalty on him as well. Wouldn't have to worry about the tire combination, tire compounds really. Everybody pretty much on the mediums, minus that of everybody P11 downwards, as well as also Electric Blade and Jorday, who have elected to take the hards and the softs respectively. It's now Josh Sr. within DRS range on Grim Reaper ahead. He's going to get it here coming off of turn 10. Looks like DJ Knickknack's back within DRS range of Helgeland as well. Will Josh Sr. be able to hold on to DRS coming down the pit straight? Yes, he will. And we do have a yellow flag. It's one of the Alfa Romeos. It's Jorday. He's in the barriers. He's not lost any front wing. He's on the barriers to the inside of the circuit. And we saw him, I believe it was him not long ago. No, it was DJ Knickknack not long ago who had a very similar slip going through turn 10. As you can tell, the tires on the Alfa Romeo are going to be absolutely shot right now. That one could have spelled disaster for Say and the rest of the top three. Well, here's Guitar Man. 0.2 of a second to the McLaren of Fireballer ahead. Side by side entering turn 1. Still side by side. McLaren's got the inside line, I'd say, covered, but Guitar Man Khan's going to make the overtake and pick up the DRS coming out of turn 2. Very nicely done from Guitar Man, as it looks like the Alfa Romeo of Jorday enters the pits. I did not see him have any damage. He's gone for the mediums. We probably should have been what happened the first time he decided to pit, but I digress. Josh Sr. within 0.6 of a second of Grim Reaper here. This might be a battle taking place shortly. We got a yellow flag. That I believe, it's not Bobbert Yates, it's his teammate of Frenchie, who I believe was just getting out of the way from the leaders there, but he did hit the wall. He was on the wall coming out of, going into turn 13 rather. Oh, and his teammates, what's happened there? Well, Bobbert Yates has spun, so interesting turn of events here for the Alpine team. Frenchie was out of the way, off the pace, going in towards turn 13. Bobbert Yates, I believe, just had a slip coming off of the final corner. made contact with the inside wall, and somehow, I don't think has picked up any wing damage. And now back again to the battle between Josh Sr. and Grim Reaper. Yellow flag. And it is Frenchie getting out of the way for the leaders, at least that of Bobbert Yates and Helgelin, as well as DJ Knickknack in pursuit of that one as well. 0.4 of a second in the battle here between Grim Reaper and Josh Sr. DRS when it comes into play. This one might spell an overtake down towards turn 11. We haven't seen many of that today. In fact, you don't typically see overtakes into this corner despite the DRS existing. Josh Sr. had a peek down to the inside, realized he wasn't going to make it, and will have to wait to go down the pit straight and pick up that stint of DRS. A little wide that time when Grim Reaper, although he's held this pace quite nicely. Through turn 14, down the pit straight they go. It looks like Grim Reaper's gotten a much better getaway. Travis Scott picking up 3 seconds penalty for multiple warnings. And it looks like we have a yellow flag somewhere. It's one of the Alfa Romeos. It's DJ Knickknack, who was spun going out of turn 13. Yet again, I believe hit the wall and did not pick up any wing damage. I'm surprised how durable the front wings have been today. I believe we've only seen maybe 1 or 2 changes so far, which is unexpected with how many little offs like this that we've seen. Closing into the final stages of the race here. It's now suddenly a beautiful day here in Melbourne. Josh Sr. doing his best to stay within a competitive distance back to Grim Reaper. It looks as if he is right closing in even without DRS. Helgelin might have the ability to make a move at Bobbert Yates here momentarily. He is within a second as well. Another yellow flag. This time it is Jorday, and it's coming off the final corner. Near carbon copy to his teammate. Oh, and Jorday's been disqualified. And that is on the entrance to the pit lane. Little odd to say the least. I don't think there was really much he could have done. And now the Alfa Romeo of Jorday is going to retire itself on track, considering he was disqualified for spinning out of turn 13. He's going right slow down the pit straight. In behind now. Oh! Good God almighty, and it's Bobbert Yates! What in the hell just happened? And the safety car's on track! Have you ever seen anything like this? The Alfa Romeo of Jorday, the robot, was going down the pit straight at a very pedestrian pace of 113 kilometers an hour, and I don't think Bobbert Yates really thought that the car ahead was that slow, as he really smashed straight into the back of Jorday. And now, 3 drivers have been claimed here by the Albert Park Circuit, and a huge host of drivers will come into the pits now. Goodness gracious, what has we just witnessed here? Say has come in for the mediums. Electric Blade has come in for the mediums. Fireballers picked up 5 seconds of penalty for a collision with Hightower. El Majaco's coming in as well. Wow. Ooh, this is a tough decision here. Grim Reaper slow on the way into the pits. Does anyone choose to stay out? Majaco has gone for the softs, as well as Electric Blade. Electric Blade and Jacko have fit the softs, whereas Say has fit the mediums. Fitting the mediums as well as Josh Sr. in the Ferrari of Helgelin also fits the softs. DJ Knickknack on his way in as well. And I believe he'll be fitting the softs. Let's wait and see. Yes, softs going on for the Alfa Romeo of DJ Knickknack. So, out of the drivers that have pit, only 2 have chosen the medium tire. It's P5 of Josh Sr. and our leader of Say. We're going to step aside momentarily to let the safety car play itself out. But don't go anywhere. We've got ourselves one hell of a finish to this Grand Prix coming up. A little bit early, just an interesting development here. Josh Sr., who had stayed out on the mediums, had pit at the beginning of the safety car for the mediums, was able to pit again and only lose the 1 spot to Helgelin. as the group had caught itself up to the safety car. He now sits P6. One more time, our leader of Say, the only driver on the fresh mediums. The safety car is in this lap. We'll have lap 26, 27, 28, and 29. It's 4 laps remaining. This time by, here for the Australian Grand Prix. Reminder that Grim Reaper, DJ Knickknack, and Travis Scott all have 3-second penalties for multiple warnings. At the moment, DJ Knickknack is up 7. The biggest mover in the positive direction. In the negative direction, it is Hightower down 7. So, with 4 laps to go, this time by, how aggressive. I will say, Say has definitely been the quickest driver on track all day, but now he has the slight disadvantage of being on the slower compounded tire back to a group of drivers on softs that their tires will not be finished by the end of the race. They will still be at a respectable range of wear, to where being on the softs is going to be the advantage. Green flag in the air, back in towards turn 1. It's Say leading the charge through turn 1. He's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders now, and hopefully for him it doesn't result in a mistake. Electric Blade nor Jacko have been able to really close their gap, although it looks like in the midfield, Josh Sr. might have a move towards Helgeland here momentarily. Electric Blade still within half a second to Say, but the gap not necessarily closing. Once DRS is in play in a couple of laps' time, that I'm sure will be changed. Elma Jacko has actually fallen outside of a second, back to the 2 leaders ahead. In fact, now Electric Blade within 0.3 of a second on Say as they head towards turn 9 and 10. Who makes the mistake and who doesn't? Electric Blade is taking it very well. Guitar Man has just gotten around DJ Knickknack there. That is before going into 9 and 10. Brilliant maneuver there. Unfortunately, we weren't along for it, but that one, just from the naked eye, that must have been brilliant. No DRS in play this time by Electric Blade. Still 5.5 tenths behind the leader of Say, this time with 3 laps to go. Electric Blade with the fastest lap to 1:21.0. In fact, now Josh Sr. just goes and does it 1:20.951. Josh Sr. And now it falls down to Hightower. But more importantly, no DRS yet, and Electric Blade still looks to be closing in to Say ahead. Say, I would say, had the car set up perhaps for the wet, because while we had the wet conditions, he was out in front by an Australian mile, whatever that would equate to. But now, I mean, granted he's had the safety car to help him, but it looks like his pace may not be as strong in the dry conditions, as Electric Blade definitely seems faster in the dry. It's either he's genuinely faster in the dry or the tires are playing that much more of an advantage. It looks like Fireballer getting around Travis Scott before getting into turn 9. A brilliantly ballsy maneuver there from Fireballer. That one could have gone wrong if taken incorrectly. We'll have 2 laps to go this time by for Say to perhaps make better of his last week's race in Saudi Arabia that I'm sure he thought could have gone better. And now here's Grim Reaper trying to hunt down Elma Jacko. Mind you, he's got the 3-second time penalty, but the more he's within the slipstream of Elma Jacko ahead, the more he'll get pulled out of that 3-second gap that he will need to get to clear himself of the penalty back to Josh Sr., who currently resides in P5, a second and a half behind, as well as Helgeland. So it's going to be, at least for, we got a yellow flag in the back. It looks like perhaps, I'm not sure who it was. Whatever it was, it sorted itself out quickly. So once again, it'll be a very consistent finish for Josh Sr. and Helgeland, both of which at the moment will finish within the top 5. Helgeland and a 3-second time. I can't help myself. It just happens. It's not my fault. Surely not. Well, as I said, Helgeland was going to finish within the top 5. He then picked up a 3-second time penalty just for fun. DRS enabled here. Electric Blade within half a second. He may not get him this time into turn 11. In fact, we've not seen an overtake happen here all day. But he will have 1 lap left to make or break his race. Say he's going to have to hold on and hold on tightly for 1 more lap of the Albert Park circuit. 5.3 kilometers left to go, 14 corners. Does Say hold on for this win? DRS enabled for Electric Blade as we start the final lap of the Grand Prix. Say has it into turn 1. Electric Blade not really gaining enough ground to make a serious attempt for the lead, as it looks like Say has gotten better acceleration into turn 2. Electric Blade has DRS once more as they head towards turn 3. Electric Blade having a little peek down to the inside. He's not close enough to make it happen. Still, for almost 0.5 of a second, Say's gone left. Electric Blade has spun it, and he's into the wall. And now, El Majaco might be picking up the second spot here, but Electric Blade, oh, and I tell you what, I think he absolutely had the pace to win this Grand Prix, but Electric Blade goes spinning out of control exiting turn 4. I think maybe has he made too much contact with the raised curb on exit of the corner, and did that send the car spinning? Thankfully, it looks as if his car has evaded any wing damage. He may be able to hold on to second place here, as it looks like Guitar Man and Helgeland side by side through 9 and 10. Helgeland's gone up the inside. Brilliant stuff. Oh, who would that? It was Josh Sr. Oh my, and no, and Josh Sr. goes around. I could see in my peripheral vision that there was a car that had gone up. El Majaco now, trying it around the outside. Contact made. Both cars slamming into each other. And Say is going to win the Grand Prix, but who's going to take second? Oh, and Say has won the Australian Grand Prix, but by goodness, the stewards might have a look at that one, as Electric Blade Jacko was on the outside, and Electric Blade went straight into the side of the Ferrari, as El Majaco was well ahead of the AlphaTauri heading into the final corner, the penultimate corner rather. He had at least half a car on the outside, and Electric Blade drove straight into the side of El Majaco. That will definitely be looked at by the stewards, and that may certainly prove to be a detrimental penalty to Electric Blade's race if it's given. But it is Say winning the Australian Grand Prix, and El Majaco, no matter where it is, he finishes on the podium here in Australia. So after it's all said and done, here in Australia, it's Say winning a wet and wild Australian Grand Prix. It's Electric Blade in second. Temporarily, I'll say, perhaps El Majaco in third. Remember, they had the contact coming off the penultimate corner. Grim Reaper fourth. Helgeland fifth. Slayer Eye sixth. Fireballer 7th, Guitar Man 8th, Hightower 9th, Travis Scott in 10th, 11th is Josh Sr., 12th is Nick Knack, 13th Frenchie, and unfortunately for Bobbert Yates Jorday and the mysterious Mercedes driver, they did not finish the Grand Prix. And next week, as if you thought that one was crazy and the threat of weather was ever so present, next week we head to Japan, the Suzuka International Racing Course, for round 3 of the Midwest Division 2 season. Hotspot, it's been a pleasure joining you on this one. We'll see you next week.